In this video, I'm going to teach a bunch of different types of false cuts. Now, these moves are not designed to be the actual trick, but more to just happen while you're talking. I would never say to somebody, look, I'm going to cut these cards, and then I do a false cut, because now they're watching it and they're expecting something. Instead, you just cut the cards naturally, and their mind tells them that they saw you cut the cards. It doesn't feel unnatural.
So the very first false cut that I'm going to teach is just a basic cut. You're going to grab the cards, put them on the table, and you didn't actually cut the cards. Let me flip the top card up, and we'll go through the mechanics of this one. Very simple. So the first thing you're going to do is hold the deck in your left hand between your middle finger and your thumb and sideways, index finger at the edge of the deck like this. So you're holding the deck between these three fingers. Now with the other hand, you're going to use your thumb and your middle finger to pull out the bottom half of the deck. As you get past the cards, you're going to turn them sideways, make a T out of them as if you're squaring the deck up, then place the cards on the table, and then put the top right back on top. So you grab that, square it up, and you put them down. Now you don't have to do the square up part. You could literally just take these cards and do that, and it looks like a real cut. But I think the square up kind of sells it a little more. The next version is the one that I use the most. So while I'm talking, I just begin and I just do that real quick. It's the exact same move as the last one that we just learned, except you're not grabbing from the bottom. You're going to do a swing cut. But when you swing the top portion off, you're going to turn it sideways, square up from the side, this portion, put it on the table, and then put the rest down. So again, this is supposed to look like you're just taking the top of the deck and you're doing a real cut. But of course you're not, because you're reversing the order. So one more time, you're swinging the cards over, gripping them right here as you normally would. Turn the two packs perpendicular to each other, tap these once or twice, put them down, and then put the rest on top. This next one is very easy to perform, and again, it looks pretty convincing. Place the cards on the table, triple cut, and you didn't actually cut the cards. What this is supposed to look like you're doing is making 3 piles on the table, and then reversing the order of those 3 piles, so you've done a triple cut. But what we're actually doing is placing the top section, so you're just going to grab a third of the deck and place it over here. And then you're going to put another third, the middle third, and you're going to place it in the middle. And then the bottom third, you're going to place it on the bottom. And then with the other hand, you're going to go across and put them back on top of each other. So top on top of middle, middle on top of bottom. Now you don't have to use the other hand. What I found is that if I do this, I use the same hand and then go back and stack them, it just sells it a little bit less. When you do it like this and you grab with the other hand, it almost feels like it was an actual cut. This next false cut looks a little bit fancier. It's a triple cut onto the table. It looks something like that. You're just going to grab a third of the deck. So the third goes here. Then the next third you're going to grab, the same thing, split it off and pass it here. But as you do that, you're going to drop cards to the table. So it's going to look like this. There's the top portion. That's the middle portion. And then this is the bottom portion, which I'm just going to drop right onto the table. And then I'll put this part right back on top of that. And I'll put the top right back on top. So again, it's the top portion in your hand. Grab the middle portion, drop the bottom portion, then drop the middle right back on top, and then put the top back on top. So the first portion is in this hand. You're not going to let go of it. Keep it right there. Then you just slide it down slightly. It's not going to stay in this tight position. It's got to come down a little bit so that you can hold the second packet kind of above it. So as you're coming up here, you can drop this portion to the table without these two kind of coming together. So I'm doing that by keeping my ring finger in that position. What I don't want them to do is kind of get together like that, and then I won't be able to find the difference in the two packets. So I'm doing that, putting the first packet here, second packet slightly higher, like that, and when it comes down, it's landing on top of my fingers, so that I can put that right back where it was, and the rest on top. So it's like that, that, and done. And then in regular motion.
This next move is a combination of a cut and a shuffle. So it's called up the ladder. I think I created my own version of this false cut. So here's what I thought they were doing. It looks something like this. They cut, 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 like that, and then the cards are still in brand new deck order. Now what the actual move looks like is more like this. You go out like that, cut, it's called up the ladder, and either way, the cards are still in brand new deck order. So let's look at the differences. The version that I created is actually just keeping a break with my thumb. So when I make that first cut, I bring the cards around and I just keep my thumb like that. So I'm holding a pretty big break in the back of the cards. And now all the rest of the cuts are just gonna come around and go on top of that break. I'm just keeping that one beginning break. I can bring as many cuts as I want, as long as when I get to that last portion, I bring the rest of those cards and put them right back on top. I haven't changed the order of the deck. So just like any cut, if you cut the cards, you're not changing the order, you're just changing the starting point of the deck of cards. So if you do a multiple cut, but you keep them where the last cut goes back to the starting point. You haven't changed anything. The deck is still in the exact same order. The correct way to do up the ladder is that you grab a small pack from the bottom, you put them on top, but over jog them. So you're going to put them to the side jog like that. And then you're going to take the entire pack from here and just move it right back on top. So you've done nothing, right? All you've done is taken the bottom section and then put it right back. You've done nothing. But that's the beginning of up the ladder. You do that, and then you bring these back on top. Now you're going to cut a small pack from the bottom of the right jogged section, the bigger section of the cards. You're going to take a portion of these cards, put them on top to the left jog, so they're kind of on top of the other section of cards. Now remember, these cards belong here if I were to put the cards back to the beginning. So they're here right now. So what I'm going to do next is take this center packet out now and just put it back on top. So I'm putting these cards where they're supposed to be, right back where they were before. And these go back on top, but right jogged. Now I'll grab another section from here. Now remember, look where these cards are that I'm about to take from. They're actually right on top of these cards. That's where they belong. But I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them on top of this packet, left jog them. And then I'm just going to take this middle packet out again, putting these cards right back where they were a second ago. And that's what you're going to do. You're just going to keep going up the ladder. That's why it's called up the ladder. So again, that first cut is just to get you started. So you push these aside and you push these right back. So you've done nothing. You just cut and uncut. Then you take a packet from the bottom, put it to the side, take the middle out, putting those back where they belong. From the side, putting these right back where they belong, and you're done. And then when you get to the end of doing an up the ladder cut or shuffle, usually you just want to bang the cards kind of like that, like you finished a cut. But in a more fluid motion, it's kind of just going to look like you're cutting the cards, and it looks pretty mixed up, but they are not mixed up at all. Now if we put those two together, right, we have the real up the ladder cut combined with the version that I thought the up the ladder cut was originally, right? So instead of taking that first packet and putting it aside and then putting this right back on top, because to me that looks a little shady, do that first part by holding the break and put these back on top. Now you can side jog. So it doesn't look like that first cut is so fake anymore, right? So instead of going like this and then like this and then doing your up the ladder cut, now you're just going to take a small packet from the bottom, keep your break, put these right back on top, and now you go right into the regular up the ladder cut, and the cards are still in new order.